For fans of UFC matches, one of the most triggering things to happen is when your favorite fighter is matched up to a dirty fighter. There are rules, of course, against dirty fighting, but who's gonna stop these guys? The ref? Ha, okay. Jon Jones is a great fighter, but Jon Jones is perhaps the most notorious dirty fighter in the UFC, and everybody knows it. But some fighters and fans don't seem to think that. So why is that? Jon Jones is a 6' 4" fighting machine. I mean, this guy's a monster.
Jon Jones has defended his UFC light heavyweight championship. He stops Quentin Rampage Jackson. Wow.
His wingspan measures in at 7' 1". That's a whole extra person plus some. Jon holds several records and achievements, such as longest reach and youngest champion of the UFC. Jones busted onto the scene during UFC 87, only giving a 2 weeks notice that he was going toe-to-toe with Andre Guzmão. And since that day, the only thing to beat Jon Jones was the 12 out of 6 elbow rule. For someone so big and monstrous, you'd think it'd be easy to get them off balance, get their backs to the mat, but you'd be wrong. Jones studied fighters like Ryan Bader, Rampage Jackson, and Rashad Evans. He noticed how their backs never once touched the canvas during a fight. Jones tried not only his fighting skills, but tried to gain and utilize his dexterity and ability to stay standing as well. And this is one of the biggest key pieces of what makes Jones a monster to fight. And the same goes for his striking ability. Imagine trying to navigate around the wingspan reach of nearly 85 inches. It's freaking impossible! Jones's go-to moves are usually something along the lines of spinning sidekicks, a spinning elbow, Superman punches, or even flying knees. Jones is good at keeping his balance while throwing his opponents off balance. But with the size, weight, and wingspan that Jones has, why in the world does everyone say he's a dirty fighter? Even when the giant emerges from the caged octagon, the UFC heavyweight can't win. Following Jones' destruction of Glover Teixeira in Baltimore during UFC 172, a fight that Jones coach Greg Jackson described as artistic, the fighter can't escape the critics who labeled him as a dirty fighter. Across the MMA forums of Reddit and other platforms, people voice their opinions loudly and rather angrily. Jones's complete and utter obliteration of the octagon is clear for those to see. But it's the little things that are edging these critics on. Things such as stretching out his hand, fingers flared to gauge distance, palming his opponent's head, cranking his opponent's arm with an overhook, probably with the intent to hurt them. But the online critics take these things as a sign of disrespect, as Jones is fighting dirty. And while these points are not entirely wrong, they're also not completely valid either. Jon Jones unquestionably does these things, and the footage of his fights shows us that much. And he's even admitted to thinking, "Oh, nice," during the UFC 172 post-fight press conference after he heard Teixeira's arm pop, which wasn't exactly an illegal move, just borderline illegal. There's a difference, but pushing the fighting envelope and maximizing his potential for amazingness to the very brink, it's not illegal to do, which in turn does not make Jon Jones a dirty fighter.
Jones pressing down on that arm. He's going to use the stand. He's got a mounted crucifix now. This is a terrible spot.
Just think, during the 1998 NBA Finals, Michael Jordan famously pushed off Byron Russell right before nailing the game-winning jumper. It was great, and the move didn't get called. Jones's tactics, at this point, are not unlike those used by nearly every top-level athlete, in any sport for that matter. So many athletes have done things that walk the fine line without being called or flagged. And honestly, to succeed at the highest levels you have to do these things. These athletes are doing what it takes for them to win, and to do it without compromising the integrity of the game they're playing. Jon Jones's tactics absolutely push the envelope to a near breaking point. That is, without a doubt in anybody's mind. But pushing said envelope to the breaking point, treading that fine line in the sand, it isn't fighting dirty. It's not like Jones is throwing out eye pokes as an attack on his opponents either. Bloody Elbows' Fraser Coffin actually explained this one pretty great. The eye poke that Jones gets dug on for is actually the result of an old-school Muay Thai technique. Jones is probably more than well aware that he's doing it and utilizing this technique, but I'm pretty sure he's not doing it to take someone's eye out for real. And if it was such a huge problem after all, the referee needs to tell Jones that, and the ref needs to tell Jones they will take points for doing it. Then actually take the point. This is the easiest way to prevent it from happening. But perhaps the notion that Jon Jones is a dirty fighter doesn't come from him walking the fine line. Instead, these opinions could be stemming from the most recent legal battles and tangos with law enforcement. Back in 2021, Jon Jones was arrested and charged with domestic violence. But in December of the same year, the charges were dropped when Jones struck a plea deal. This was the most serious charge Jones had filed against him. In addition to the domestic violence charge, Jones was also charged with a misdemeanor for destruction of property. Jones was ordered to pay $750 to the victim, and he was forced into anger management counseling. Everything was fine and dandy until early 2022. Jones announced on Twitter that his fiancée, Jessie Moses, was leaving him. This action followed the release of body cam footage showing Jones' arrest from the prior year. In the video, Jones headbutts a Las Vegas police officer on the night of his UFC Hall of Fame induction, no less. Go big or go home, right, Jones? But wait, it gets even freaking better. The body cam footage also shows Jones calling an officer I'm sorry, but could you imagine hearing that in real life? A giant monster of a man calling a police officer a nerd while he's being arrested. It's almost too funny to be true. After the arrest and court dates, Jones and Moses had seemingly made up after the incident. But the 20-year relationship came to a close, and she would not be returning. Jones tweeted out to his haters, "If you are a Jon Jones hater, have a toast. I feel like..." More likely than not, the Jones haters have nitpicked Jones' fighting style to death. They want him to be a dirty fighter because they hate that he's a good fighter. But with the recent negative publicity and more than questionable actions, the Jon Jones haters finally have something to actually hate on, instead of trying to make it up out of thin air. Jon Jones' actions are not in any way condoned or celebrated. But you have to see the big picture here. If Jones never did any of this stuff, the Redditors would have no grounds to call Jones a dirty fighter. Let us know down in the comments below what your thoughts are. Is Jon Jones a dirty fighter? Or is Jon Jones just really good at what he does? And do fans just love to hate him? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay updated with our latest videos. And as always, stay safe out there, guys.